in the past, which kind of ties in with the South African thing. It's like, I mean, could we do the same with South Africa, saying we should be paying people money that were not directly affected with what happened in the past? The same thing happens in America as well. They're trying to create division between white and black people, but the stupid people are the ones that fall for it. The intelligent ones are the people that see the motive behind the political party, what they're trying to do. They're trying to cause division and get voters that way. So it's the same thing in Africa, South Africa just now. I've worked as a chef. I've worked with many people from South Africa, and goeiemiddag to all the South Africans out there. I just think it's like the tables are turned now, and they're trying. The certain political members in South Africa are trying to cause a lot of racial unrest and division to the point.
Is Marty still there?
I think he lost signal. And then back to the thing that Marty had mentioned about as well, which you touched upon as well, which is the Gaza thing.
Hugh,
yes.
Look, Hugh, before we get to the Gaza thing, I've got a theory. So I find it very interesting that President Trump raised the genocide issue when Cyril Ramaphosa visited the White House, but he didn't raise it when Benjamin Netanyahu did. And as we know, it was South Africa that raised the genocide case to the International Court of Justice. Do you think that politics could be playing a role in why Trump raised the issue of white genocide in South Africa? Because, as you know, the Republican Party is very close to Israel. Well, so are both parties, in fact.
Well, they're not now. Apparently, the latest thing that's happened, I mean, obviously, I don't know too much about it, but it's almost like Donald Trump at this point is basically pushed Netanyahu aside and basically, in layman terms, saying, America's not your bitch anymore. We make the decisions, you don't.
Because well, if you're going to be America first, you shouldn't be fighting wars and arming Israel.
Well, see what Benjamin's been trying to do is he's been trying to create unrest in the Middle East, right, and trying to get America to go to war, trying to push his hardest for America to go to war with Iran and stuff like that, right? But Trump's trying to be this peacemaker, you know, trying to solve world problems without using the strength of the military and pulling us into endless wars that solve nothing, right? But back to Benjamin as well, right? The whole Gaza thing, yes, it's wrong, right? But you've got to understand Hamas, you know, the terrorist organization which is funded by Iran. They build their bases underneath schools, hospitals, and stuff like that because they know that they can fire rockets and stuff like that towards Israel. But if Israel tries to respond to take these perpetrators out, they've got to have collateral damage. They've got to kill innocent people, you know.
But wait a minute. So when the Times of Israel and the New York Times admit that Israel under Netanyahu essentially helped the negotiations in Egypt and sent millions abroad so that cash could reach Hamas, you for the very purpose, and even the Times of Israel admit this, for the very purpose of dividing up governmental power and dividing up Palestine. Because as we know, you had Abbas and the PLO ruling the West Bank, and Netanyahu didn't want the PLO holding on to power in Gaza. So you speak of Iran funding Hamas, but you also have Israel under Netanyahu supporting and funding Hamas, or enabling funds to get to Hamas.
I mean, you call that kind of proxy wars. That's what they call it, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, no, you should wait a minute. The thing is, Hamas as a terrorist organisation, right, in the UK. It's a designated terrorist organisation in the US, and it's also a designated terrorist organisation in Israel. Yet the government of Israel have facilitated money being transferred to Hamas.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not a proxy war.
I'm okay. Obviously that's wrong if Israel's doing that, and I mean America's been guilty of that as well. It's
Wait a minute, the New York, even the Times of Israel, you have other publications, mainstream publications in Israel that admit that, and you talk also about Hamas building bases or installations under public facilities in Gaza, making the population of Gaza target. Do the IDF or the Israeli intelligence organizations build military infrastructure near civilian populations or communities? Do they?
They most probably do. I mean, I've not been to Israel to see it myself. My father's been there. But I would imagine...
You've never been?
You've never been?
I would...
That's a shout out to Douglas Murray there.
Yeah.
You've never been?
Never been.
Yeah. It's like basically as Israel with the Palestinians, well, their bases and stuff like that. We've kind of witnessed a similar setup to that as well, because look at the thing in Ireland, you know, obviously during the time of the IRA and stuff like that, and the British bases and checkpoints and stuff like that. Israel is the exact same way, you know.
But Hugh, do you think there's a genocide taking place in Gaza?
It's hard to tell because of the information that's coming out, because I have seen footage coming out of Gaza where...
Guys, John, can you show
listen, it's funny. I've actually seen footage out there that was shown before, and it was people recorded who were trying to set up...
Look at that.
Yeah. It's like they were like actors. They were trying to set up basically a situation that looked bad to the recording.
Does that look like a bunch of actors have set up a situation?
I wouldn't say that is, but I mean before that happened, there certainly was. But that...
So just because they were actors that perhaps set up a situation, does that...
I mean, you've got to remember, Vince, right? Even when Gaza was not far off looking like that, right? They were still trying to shoot rockets into Israel from that, and obviously,
because it was a blockade.
Well, yeah, there was that, but I think the blockade was mainly trying to stop weapons coming into Gaza.
Well, wait a minute. Why
blockade the sea and the land, you know,
and the air,
and they were basically trying to get the Gazan people who weren't part of Hamas to actually leave so they could take care of the Hamas, you know. So basically, Israel were giving them pre-warning.
Leave where?
Leave Gaza so they could take care of Hamas and wipe them out. So pretty much it's kind of like...
you want the entire population of Gaza to disappear somewhere else?
Temporarily, so they could take Hamas out.
Isn't that similar to the Nakba in the 40s? When
it's like
the population of Gaza was relocated.
It's like what people seem to forget as well. It's like when Israel's bombed Gaza,
and did they come back together?
They've dropped leaflets and stuff like that to the people before. If they were deliberately trying to cause genocide and wipe everyone out, they wouldn't be dropping leaflets to try and alert people prior to it. Get out there.
Well, why? Okay, they dropped leaflets and then they dropped £2,000 bombs on refugee camps, killing thousands of children. What difference does it make if you drop a leaflet, then drop a £2,000 bomb?
They claim that's what's happening, but we don't really know.
No, this has been acknowledged. I mean, the United States government under Joe Biden has been providing Israel with £2,000 bombs that were being used in Gaza.
Yeah.
Hence why the Biden administration stopped supplying them with £2,000 bombs, and these £2,000 bombs were being dropped in refugee camps.
Yeah, I mean, see, the
Why
thing.
would you drop a £2,000 bomb in a refugee camp?
See, okay, so I want to say something based on what I spoke about before, right? See, obviously, the Democrats, basically, as you were saying, providing these weapons to Israel, knowing what it could be used for, whether we know it really targeted camps or not, right? Remember, I told you years ago, I've been a chef 31 years.
Refugee camps.
Yeah, that I used to work in a 5-star Hilton hotel as a chef, and it doesn't matter. It's like the Democrats, right? They were saying we love Israel. No, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton. We're with Israel. We're with Gaza. Blah blah blah. Flip flopping. When Bill Clinton visited the Hilton Hotel when I worked there, as I mentioned before, he was getting paid about $1 million. As soon as he left the White House, he went to do a huge speech at the Hilton 5-star in Glasgow. He was paid over $1 million, and it was to do a speech at a Palestinian. It was a Palestinian event, right? So this is what I'm saying, right?
Money's money, mate.
It's like these government figures, Democrats or whoever, people from other countries, right? They don't really care about one side or the other. They only care about who's paying them the money. And as I say, I've seen it with my eyes. It's like he was getting paid to make big speeches.
Yeah, but that's true.
And then a lot of people say they think Hillary's anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, and stuff like that. And I'm not saying it's true, but it makes you think, well, if they're accepting money off the Palestinians,
the finance minister of Israel, who's in the war cabinet, Smotrich, has even said we have to cleanse Gaza. Right? You have Gallant, who is the former defense minister, who called Palestinians human animals. You have the prime minister of Israel, who has called the Gazan people Amalek, which is a biblical reference of annihilation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not
senior officials in the Israeli government speaking about a group, population like that. They are declaring their intention. They are telling you what they want to do, and they have told the world that they want to cleanse Gaza.
And the thing is as well, right? I'm not saying that I think everything Israel's doing is right, but when
what are they doing that's right?
It's just see when all these 1,500 people or whatever it was got killed, right? These concert goers and stuff like that, right? That attack in Israel, that wasn't a last minute preparation thing, thought what to do. That was pre-planned. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew that anyone who was they were going through homes. You've seen the footage, going through homes, cutting the heads off babies and everything like that, right?
Where's the footage of babies' heads being cut off? Where's that footage?
Well, obviously the media is not going to show it unless it's Al Jazeera or something like that. They would.
So where did you see that footage?
Where
did you see that footage?
I heard the footage, but
you've never seen the footage.
But I did see the video footage of them going into a small housing complex, so little homes.
But you didn't see any footage of babies' heads being cut off.
And they were shooting people.
Okay, but did you see any footage of babies' heads being cut off?
Well, this is the thing as well. We can only go with what we're told. Just as
it's an allegation.
Well, it's the same with what Palestine, the Gaza.
No, it's not. It's not the same with what Palestine is.
No, because they're making allegations.
It's actually not. We have the UN Secretary General in this case. I'm not. No. But you have the UN Secretary General coming out calling what is taking place in Gaza a killing field. You have doctors from all over the world who are working in Gaza coming forth, telling us what they're seeing with their own eyes, the indiscriminate bombing of hospitals, the indiscriminate bombing of children. You had British aid workers, my people, like the people that live in my country, who are working over there for the World Central Kitchen, and they're being blown to pieces and killed by Israel, even though their convoy is marked and they've told the Israeli government that they're travelling on this road, and yet Israel destroys our convoy. That isn't an allegation. That was
every country can make mistakes. Every country during a war can make mistakes, right? But we've got to understand as well, when you talk about hospitals and stuff, Hamas has been having foot soldiers in hospitals, knowing fair well that they're using the members of the public as human shields. That if they fire upon someone, the IDF or something like that, they're going to fire back. So they're to blame.
What does Hamas have to fire? Israel has F-35s. Hamas have paragliders.
No, they don't. They don't. They have been given. Drones, RPGs, things that can take helicopters and planes out of the sky, supplied by Iran.
How many Israelis have been killed by Hamas in the last year?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's down to how strict the security.
How many IDF soldiers have been killed by Hamas in the last year?
Because
according to the Israeli government, 25,000 Hamas soldiers or terrorists have been murdered by the IDF.
But that's the thing. If they're terrorists, if they want to create terror and kill innocent people, should we be worried whether it's 25,000 or more? No, because if they're willing to...
Wait a minute. There's a reason you have an army. If there is tunnels underneath these hospitals or underneath civilian infrastructure, then you have a standing army to go in the tunnels and kill the terrorists. You do not level the entire population centre to the ground, destroying 80% of the infrastructure and killing 60,000 children.
See the problem. See the problem with the tunnels, right? A lot of the tunnels were booby trapped, right? So for asking soldiers, basically, who don't just sign up. It's like in Israel and these countries, it's mandatory that you've got to do a service in the military, right? So that's expecting them to put themselves in harm's way going through these tunnels. You don't know who's going to appear around the corner. You don't know if there's booby traps and stuff like that. And then basically, these tunnels, they've been designed in a way that they can appear in a big majority of the places in Israel, and basically they can do surprise attacks on soldiers and that stuff. And the type of attacks they tend to do on the IDF soldiers, I've seen the videos with my own eyes. It's like they might have like a little old looking frail lady. It looks like a little old frail lady, or maybe it's a young lady. And then all of a sudden they pull a knife out and they start lunging at the IDF soldiers and trying to stab them, And then there was another thing as well where they strong up. Why
has 20,000 children, Palestinian children, been killed as a result of this 16-month campaign?
We don't know if those numbers are true, but
let me just say, right, you say we don't know if those numbers have been true, right? However, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and the United Nations stand by those numbers. So you have, very important and legitimate organizations across the world that deal with this, who are giving us those numbers. So you can dismiss those numbers.
It's just
out of the Gazan Ministry of Health.
I'm just saying it like this, right? A lot of things can be manipulated. As it says, I have seen a video before where they had children and people trying to set a scene up. This was before Gaza looked the way it was, trying to make it. It's like trying to get the international countries to actually put pressure on Israel because of supposed bombings that killed kids and all that. They were trying to do it, trying to set it up. I'm not saying what Israel,
are you saying there are no bombings killing kids in Gaza?
I'm sure there is, but as I say, they've been given warning to get out so they can take care of the IDF. Because it's because if they don't take care of the IDF now, they're going to come back again.
Okay,
So
Hugh, why was there a blockade? Why was there a 70-day blockade starving the entire population, not allowing any food trucks, not allowing any food, energy, blankets?
because they were
depriving the entire population of Gaza aid.
It's because they were trying to encourage them to leave so that they could take care of Hamas, right?
Who leave? Who's to leave?
I mean, the people, because
so what you're saying is they were to starve the entire population, and they would make them leave through starvation. Have you ever had to travel hundreds, if not thousands, of miles in the desert, starving? Maybe you've got your pregnant wife starving with you. Maybe you've got your maimed 4-year-old child that's had its legs blown off beside you. How can you travel hundreds of miles when you're starving to death?
But the thing is,
and you have no medical.
I know, but see, the thing is, Gaza's not that big.
You do know.
No, listen, Gaza's not big. As far as I'm aware, is it not like 10 miles wide and 5 or 10 miles wide and about 50 miles long or something like that? It's not that long. It's not that big of a place.
No, Gaza is pull up how large Gaza is. How many square miles Gaza is?
And I know it's very small compared to a lot of places.
It is a small strip of territory, but it is not less than 50 miles or anything like that.
I'm sure it's 50 by 10 or something like that.
Right, type it in your phone. Right, but Hugh, while Gareth John is checking this up on Google in his phone, it is a war crime to starve, collectively punish and starve a population. You are aware of that, aren't you?
Oh, here we go. Look, I found it. Look, the Gaza Strip is a small territory located on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea. It is about 25 miles long, so half the size I said, right? And 3.7 to 7.5 miles wide. So it's extremely small. So people could get out there. That's what the Israel was basically saying. I'm not saying what Israel was doing was right, but they were saying
no. Gaza is hundreds of square miles of territory. It isn't.
I know, but what I'm saying is to actually leave the territory. It's not. I mean, when you think of 25 miles long,
how do they leave the territory when Israel has closed off and built a wall around it?
If they go to the checkpoints, which is stopping people from that people would go to, I'm sure the international community would actually take them out of the country or set camps up. You know,
what checkpoint?
Well, it's like obviously the people just can't jump over the border, right? But if they went there and
it's 141 square miles. So if you're in northern Gaza and you are with your family, maimed and are dying of starvation, 100 miles is a long fucking way.
It's not. But the thing is,
but Hugh, wait a minute. We were speaking about this, right? But let me ask you, right, this question because you didn't answer it. Is it a war crime to collectively punish a population by starving them?
I think yes, but as I say, when
Israel are committing war crimes.
But as I say, when you engage in a war with a country by killing their innocent people, then basically it's a lot of countries would say a certain country is justified up to a certain point. And as I say, I just want to.
What country would say that? What people would say that?
Hey, 1 second as well. So I want to say something as well. So we need to understand the difference between square miles and miles length and width, right? We're not talking. It's like we can't say over 100 square miles and make it sound like they would need to walk 100 miles. They're not. They can walk 20. They're most likely they're going to be in the center of it, so they're maybe going to have to only walk 12.5 miles to the length.
Wait a minute. Also, when they're traveling, they're being bombed. So you have to avoid the bombs that are being dropped. You have to avoid the bullets that are being fired. Plus, you're starving. Your family's ill, maimed. They're not getting medication. They're not getting food. The energy to the desalination plants are closed down, so they're not getting clean drinking water. When you are struggling to survive, a few miles very hard to do.
But as I says, before Gaza looked the way it did in that picture, they had so many opportunities to leave.
Hugh, can I ask you another question,
Yeah.
Hugh? Is it a war crime to relocate the population of a people? Because you said they're starving them so they can relocate them. Is that a war crime?
I don't think they're starving them to relocate them. I think it's not an intentional thing, but they need to get in.
You just said that earlier.
No, it's
You
like
said that earlier.
no, not in those words. I didn't. They need to get in to take Hamas out. Right, Hamas is in the tunnels and everything. Right, it's unless they put the soldiers in the tunnels and put their lives at risk, they've got to bomb where these rockets and that are coming from, or where they see using drones and all that, where these foot soldiers are. Right?
They've bombed everything. There's not a town or city left.
It's because the soldiers move from one location to another.
Standing, they've bombed it all.
Yeah. So to me,
right. So you're saying they need. So can you tell me, how do you spot a Hamas fighter? If the Hamas fighters are in the population, how can you spot one from a civilian?
That's exactly what you can. That's what you would call the guerrilla.
So you can. You just said you can.
I know, but just listen to this. That's where the whole name guerrilla warfare could come in. You can't distinguish friend from foe. You can't. So you can only determine when you see them with weaponry in their hands. You know, if you see someone with an RPG, you know they're going to be the enemy. But if everyone looks the same. And
what if you don't have an RPG?
Well, if you don't have a weapon, to me, that should be a crime held against that. And then basically, if there is any situations where they can prove an international crime has been taking place, like maybe innocent people, then they should reprimand any Israeli pilots who may have shot at the wrong place or something.
Like for example, there were 3 ambulances shot and all the paramedics. Mm-hmm. Did you hear about the case where there were 3 Red Crescent ambulances that were shot up by the IDF, and then the IDF buried the ambulances? However, someone filmed this taking place, and the IDF were condemned, and apparently some soldiers were reprimanded.
Yeah, I mean, if there's video evidence,
why did they do that? Why did they shoot up ambulances?
If there's video evidence, I mean, it's kind of like the police, right? We've got good cops, bad cops. Same with the military, the good military, bad military. I think if anyone is caught doing something that they've not been directed by their by the military leaders to perform, then they should be held accountable for it, right? And then if it turns out that was the orders they were given to actually perform that act, then the people that gave the orders to perform that act, if they know they're innocent people,
so is that war crime? Are you referring?
If that happened, yes, that would be a war crime. I would definitely call that one. Yeah,
the soldiers and right. So are you saying so? You are aware, and you have acknowledged this, so you are aware of it, that starving a population is a war crime, and this is an order that was given by the government of Israel. So therefore, is the government of Israel guilty of war crimes, and should they be held accountable?
I think if we see video evidence proving each individual case, there's a strong case they could say war crimes. And as I say,
the starving the population of Gaza.
Yeah. But biggest majority of people out there.
The world has seen for over 70 days Gaza getting no food. So is that a war crime?
I think,
and therefore, should the government of Israel, who have ordered that, should they be held accountable by being taken to the International Court of Justice?
I think that's one of the reasons why Donald Trump's cut his hands with Benjamin, because basically,
so why is he supplying him weaponry still? If he's really washed his hands of Benjamin,
as far as I'm aware, he's cut the weaponry off completely now, whereas
hasn't.
the Biden administration was giving them weapons like it was going out of fashion. It's like Trump's trying to find a solution.
No, but the Trump administration is supplying Israel with weapons every couple of days.
This is why Trump was given the biggest award in one of these Arabian countries. I think it was Dubai or something like that, right? Is because he's trying to make peace in the Middle East. He's seen in the past that, every Middle Eastern war we've entered, whether it's to help Israel or
by calling al-Jawlani the former head of Al-Qaeda an attractive man, by standing beside one of the heads of Al-Qaeda and ISIS, the new president of Syria, that's making peace.
I mean, you got to think to yourself, right? Every country's leaders have been guilty of some crime in some way or not, right? We don't always see.
No. There's a difference between Keir Starmer and a man that was the head of Al Qaeda. There's a big difference.
No. Because
al-Jawlani was a lieutenant in ISIS, and
I know, but I just want to put this out, right? When who was it? When Tony Blair, for instance, right? When he went to war against Iraq, right? With
he's a war criminal.
It was. I think that was the second Iraq war. I think it was John Major who went with the senior Bush, right? When we went to war with Iraq, right? They should have been held on international crimes, because all this all the instability in the Middle East is because of that. They claimed there was weapons of mass destruction and stuff when there wasn't, right? Saddam wasn't the best person towards his people, but he certainly stopped terrorist organizations from forming. He had everyone in check. When they took him out, look what happened. The whole Middle East just all collapsed. It's like our leaders have been guilty for crimes as well, but we hide the fact that we do these crimes. America and Britain hide all the crimes, but we can turn around and say, we can label someone and say that's a terrorist organization, but in some ways, maybe, are we not the terrorists?
No.
But
wait a minute, Hugh. What took place in Syria was called Operation Sycamore, when the US and the UK essentially funded and trained and supported Al-Qaeda and ISIS in order to overthrow the government.
And that was to fight against Russia. They funded.
No, that was just in 2015, 2006.
Yeah, but Bin Laden, for instance, right? USA trained his terrorist organization. They funded them, and then all of a sudden they turned on us. They were funding them to fight against.
Wait a minute! You said they turned on us, Hugh. They were never with us. They didn't turn on you. They were never with you.
Oh, they were
talking about. These are Sunni terrorists. No, they were never with you. They were fighting.
No,
in the Soviet Union because it's the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. And actually, the United States was arming the Mujahideen and the people that were essentially in Afghanistan before the Soviet Union even invaded. Hence why the Soviet Union did invade.
Yeah, listen, Bin Laden, his family was involved in the oil business, right? There was pictures of his family with the Bushies and stuff like that. There was a picture of Bin Laden.
Yeah, but these Wahhabi Sunni terrorists.
What's that, sorry?
Terrorists are not with us. I'm not talking about Bin Laden. I'm talking about these groups like Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra and ISIS. They are not with us. And when you see Trump standing beside al-Jawlani and saying he's an attractive guy, no, you're losing credibility in my eyes when you're doing that, man.
Well, there is, but I mean, unfortunately, him or anyone else who puts in, we can have endless wars with these people. They're only going to have
What people? Al-Jawlani isn't Syrian. Why is al-Jawlani the president of Syria? He's not Syrian.
Well, this is if the Syrians have an issue with it,
Wait
need to stand up. We
a
can't
minute.
be.
Wait a minute, Hugh.
Hugh,
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Mark Carney is the president. He's the Prime Minister of Canada.
Yeah.
If Mark Carney became the president of the United States, that would be a big problem because he's not American, right? Al-Jilani isn't Syrian. Why is the president of Syria, or the de facto president of Syria, Al-Jilani?
Well, if he's not from there, technically he shouldn't be. Kind of like when Hitler was the leader of Germany, he was from Austria. It shouldn't be allowed.
Well, that was the Third Reich for you. That was a completely different situation.
Yeah.
And I think, but I think, when you've got this person who is former Al Qaeda, former ISIS, and you've got this man of peace, Donald Trump, standing beside him saying he's attractive. I mean, what the hell's that about? Who cares how he looks? Why are you saying he's a bloody attractive?
I know, but listen, but when you watch Trump, it's like
he's got a rough background. He comes for it.
I know, but see when you watch when you watch all of Donald Trump's speeches,
and I like Donald Trump. Yeah. I like Donald Trump.
He says a lot of things with a touch of sarcasm that basically he doesn't really mean what he says on every single thing.
Hugh, is it in the interests of the United States to be defending and supporting and propping up Al-Jilani?
I think he's most likely probably say that tongue in cheek, just not really meaning it. But
is it in the United States' interest to prop up and support Al-Jilani?
I think if the Syrian people do not pick their own leader and put someone up, in order for any country to try to talk to them, right, they can only talk to whoever is making themselves available as the leader of the country. Now, if the Syrian people,
how did Al-Jilani make himself available? How did Al-Jilani make himself available?
There's a chance maybe Britain and America under the Biden administration and basically the conservatives and that they've probably helped put him in power, knowing that situation. Trump obviously didn't put this guy in power, but he needs to deal with whoever he gets to communicate with, because
wait a minute, this guy got in power under Trump. This did become president of Syria under Biden, or
I'm sure it wasn't
Obama.
I'm sure it wasn't an overnight thing, because these things don't happen overnight. It's obviously taken a lot of preparation to get him to where he was. So pretty much that was obviously going to be destined to be the situation way long ago. That wasn't like a 2-month or 3-month kind of thing, or from January.
How can you say it's destiny? It's not destiny. One of the heads of Al Qaeda becomes president.
And don't get me wrong,
Al Qaeda are supposed to be the enemy. You remember 9/11? Remember 7/7? Why is Donald Trump standing beside essentially Al Qaeda, who's now the president of Syria? It doesn't ring true to me. I don't think.
I mean, when I seen it, I didn't like it neither, right? But I mean, it's like a lot of people could say the same thing about North Korea with Kim Jong-un and stuff like that, right? I mean, if I was Donald Trump, I mean, I would just
not the same thing at all.
I would just make sure any trash that was left from Al Qaeda, regardless whether the political figures or not, I would wipe them off the face of the planet, right? And do basically what he done in the past. It's like I'm not saying it's right, but he's got to communicate with someone. And so far, no one's been getting killed. Our troops or innocent people aren't getting killed off Al Qaeda. It's like,
yes, the Alawites and Christians. Alawites and Christians have been killed in Syria by the thousands since Al-Jilani gained power. It was reported across the mainstream media, the mass murders of Christians and Alawites. In fact, a lot of the Alawite population have sought refuge beside and around the Russian bases in Syria. because the Russians are protecting
And I
them.
mean, if that's true, then that's what you call ethnic cleansing. You know, it's like is based on persecution based on your religious beliefs, which has been
But
happening.
isn't that happening in Gaza?
It happens in Pakistan as well. You know, it's like Christians are being persecuted in Pakistan every day. You know, but
So would you say
I don't think it's religious beliefs that's causing the killings in Gaza. It's basically an organization that's not actually Palestinian. That's
no, I don't think that's
bringing all this on the Gazan people. You know.
No, I don't think that's it, because I think it's a far right genocidal government in Israel that has taken the decision, and their leadership has openly admitted that they want to cleanse the population of Gaza. That's the decision of a government in Israel. That's not Hamas.
And the whole thing in Israel as well, right?
That's the Likud party.
I mean,
that's the Likud party.
I mean, there's the whole thing.
That's not Hamas.
Yeah, and the whole thing in Israel as well, there has been political figures who have wanted Benjamin held accountable and tried under international war crimes. You know, there are people in Israel who think that as well. I mean, obviously, he's got his factions of people that follow him, that agree with everything he's doing, but there's also a lot of people in Israel that don't agree with what he's doing, or they may think at the start what he was doing was correct, but maybe to a certain point, maybe he's just going a bit too far with it, you know, that it's causing problems within the Israeli government.
A bit too far.
Yeah.
But just a bit.
Just a wee bit.
But just
I mean, really, Hugh, I mean, Gav, John, show that image of Gaza again. Just show that image. Whatever. A bit. Now, remember, just think about what you said. A bit. 20,000. 20,000
I actually thought
dead.
That was Govan in Glasgow for a second. I actually thought that was Govan in Glasgow.
Govan is not as bad as Gaza. It's bad, but it's not as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
but what I'm saying is, it's like I'm
not comparable, but I wouldn't say Govan.
It's like, I mean, see the whole thing I think about Gaza, right? I know the whole thing's wrong, but it's like this, Finney, right? Let's say if someone killed your family member and you basically knew a group of people that were responsible for killing your family member, right? It would be a personal thing, and you wouldn't care what human rights you violated to make sure you got all those perpetrators back. And I think that's what's happening here.
That's why we have.
I think they're treating their people as all their family as one, and they're thinking, you know, we want to seek revenge. But it comes a point, as you are saying, it's like when
that's why we had Geneva,
enough, you know,
Nuremberg. Listen, Hugh, but remember, that's why you had the Geneva Convention and Nuremberg trials after the Second World War, so that no population is ever collectively punished ever again. Just like the Jews were collectively punished and genocided during the Second World War.
But the whole thing in Geneva, that wasn't really performed. I mean,
to make sure that kind of bad, evil shit didn't happen ever again.
Rules
of engagement, all of that stuff.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's a whole thing in Geneva after the Second World War. The perpetrators weren't held fully accountable because a lot of people think that Hitler escaped to Argentina. Most of
but we can't.
I 1 second, and then you had all the scientists in America come in and says, "We'll let you away. You come and work for us," and they let these people, perpetrators who enabled the technology that Germany had to be used against.
Yeah, but Hugh, what has that got to do with Gaza?
Yeah, what did Operation Paperclip?
What does Perrin's fascist government in Argentina and the Nazis that travelled over post World War II
is because no one gets held accountable properly.
No one gets held accountable. So because the people you want to hold accountable are not held accountable, you starve an entire population. That way you do it, you kill 20,000 kids, blockade, stop food, water, energy, destroy all the refugee camps until no one's left. And then when you've only got a few thousand that are skin and bones, then you say, we've got no fight left. And I'm literally relocate them across the Egyptian border.
I mean,
is that what you want to push them into the Sinai? Is that?
I mean, there's Egypt, for instance, right?
Because Hamas did some bad, evil shit, Israel needs to do some even worse, evil, bad shit.
It's like, see, Israel, all the Middle Eastern countries, none of them want to take any of the Palestinians. They've all said that. And this is what people are saying is, well, you claim that these people are your people. Why are you not opening the door to help these refugees out?
I can answer.
They're refusing to do it.
I can answer that, Hugh, because do you know about Hugh, I can answer that. Half of the population of Jordan is Palestinian, because most of the Palestinian population have been pushed out of Gaza, and they were told they could come back, but they weren't allowed to. That's why the Egyptians are saying no, because they know Trump and the Israelis are lying when they say they can come back, because they are lying.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Well, again, history. So half of the population, about half of the population of Jordan, are Palestinian. In fact, the Queen, or the Princess of Jordan, is Palestinian herself. You've got millions of Palestinians that have been displaced from Palestine. You've got the Nakba too. So they know if you leave Palestine, I mean, Gallant, Smotrich have even said they want to cleanse Gaza of Palestinians. They've said it.
The thing is, we know it's like Israel is the Jewish land, you know? It is the Jewish land.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, there's a lot of history behind it, you know? You've got to go back to the times of the Egyptians and stuff like that, you know? There's a few biblical stories that cover some things that happened as well.
Jews back in the Egyptian days. There were no such thing as Jews back in the Egyptian days.
They were called something that
they were called Hebrews.
I think
they were Semites.
Was it not Abraham that called it the land of the Jews? You know?
No. Jews didn't. There were no Jews until the creation of the Talmud and the Torah. They were Semites.
What's the difference between a Semite and a Jew?
Because you get Semites all over the Middle East. You've got a Semitic diaspora. You can have Muslims that are Semites. Christians are Semites.
So Semite like a race rather than a creed?
Yeah.
Right, I see.
An ethnic group.
So are all...
Where's Hugh still there?
Yeah, I'm here. It's just I'm looking up on it, so it's like Jews, which obviously the people of Israel. It looks like they were there from about 1213 to 1203 BCE. You know, I mean, to me that seems
but
like
you talk about the Jews, right? The Jews. No, again, the Jews didn't come about until the Talmud and the Torah. Okay, when the Jews were basically check when the Torah was written in the Talmud.
Yeah, and I'm thinking as well. Look, it says the narrative of the Jews traces back to the patriarch Abraham and his covenant with God. You know?
Yes, but they weren't Jews back then, because Judaism's a religion. The religion didn't come about until the creation of the Talmud and the Torah.
And you've got to think as well, it's like back to the biblical times, it's like Jesus was known as the king of the Jews, you know?
Who were there? Who was there before the Jews? Who was in Israel before the Jews?
As far as I believe, it's like the Jewish people, The people who it's like the people who are called Jews now were their original settlers. They got forced from their land.
No. It was called the Canaanites.
As in the sons and daughters of Cain.
The Canaanites were there before the Jews here. So should we bring back the Canaanites?
I'm trying to look where there, because I just watched a lot of stuff on
the land of Canaan. It's in the Bible. The land of Canaan. They wandered for 40 years in the desert until they came upon the land of Canaan.
Is that not the land of milk and honey?
Yeah. And they named it Israel after a person. And do you know who that person is, Hugh?
Yes.
Do you know who Israel is?
It's a name named after someone.
Yeah, do you know who? Jacob, the patriarch of Israel.
Yeah.
He's a good ladder. He's a good guy.
That was a good film, Jacob's Ladder. Have you ever seen that film, Hugh?
I like his crackers as well.
Jacob's Ladder.
No.
Good crackers too.
It's a brilliant film made in the late 80s, I think.
Yeah.
Jacob's Ladder.
I've watched Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat, which is about
Jacob's Ladder.
Jacob and son and all that stuff,
Not Hugh, you got to see Jacob's Ladder. I'm serious. This film is.
It's in that again, the Samuel.
No, it's the guy who's in the Shawshank Redemption.
Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins.
Yeah.
Macaulay Culkin. It's his first film.
Sure.
It's a really deep film. You got to check it. Jacob's Ladder. It's
8,
not a biblical film.
Yeah.
It's not biblical.
It's a psychological horror.
It's like a very Gnostic. It's a deep film set in the 60s. States. I think it's the 60s.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we should wrap this up because we're digressing into all these different areas which are not really relevant to the subject. But it's been quite lively. I've enjoyed it, and we had Sheldon or Marty, Sheldon/Marty. Hugh, did he say his name was Sheldon at the start?
I personally think he wasn't online as a genuine person because he definitely said his name was Sheldon, which you'll hear in the playback, and then he ended up saying his name is Marty. So I don't think, I think he was basically pretending to be someone he wasn't. I just want to touch upon one last thing, right, Vinny, listen. So basically, this is what the Google search says, right? It says because obviously I study so many things, you become rusty and you forget a lot of stuff. But it says over time, as the Israelites developed this distinct religion and culturally identity, they became known as the Jews. It says one of the 12 Judah, one of the 12 tribes. The Canaanite movement aimed to separate the Hebrew identities from its religious aspects, promoting a secular national identity rooted in the region's ancient history.
The Canaanites were there before the Jews, but Israel was the land of Canaan.
And it basically says the Canaanites were not a single homogeneous race. They were a diverse group of people inhabiting the region now known as Israel and surrounding areas. So they weren't one single set of people. It was different.
Well, there you go. Canaan existed. So Canaan existed before Israel.
Well, no, because
yes, you just said it, Hugh. Yes.
It's like it was basically.
Why don't we get the Canaanites back?
Why the Canaanites?
It's because there's no
Make
race.
Canaan great again.
There's no race called the Canaanites. It's kind of like when you think about how Scotland was formed.
Because they were
Semitic. It was all the different tribes.
No, they were Semites. That's who our Canaans were in terms of our racial background. or ethnic background.
But that was everyone in a whole. That was like calling a dog and not saying what breed it is.
Like, see the original Hebrews that migrated out of Egypt, they were Canaanites because the Canaanites used to immigrate into Egypt and were used as slave labour. That's why they referred back to the land Canaan as the land of milk and honey, because they wanted to go back.
I mean, the Israel history goes so deep. Obviously, that would need to be a separate subject to touch upon that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's all interesting history.
You're talking about over 5,000 years old, you know.
Mm-hmm. And again, if you're going to use the Bible as your source of not just religious canon but historical, testimony, then that's a single source that cannot be verified and 100% wholly credible because, again,
Vince, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Have you ever been through Irish checkpoints?
No, I haven't.
I have.
Been through what? Sorry. Oh, what's he saying? Been through what?
Irish checkpoints in the 90s.
My father had been through a few because he used to go over there quite a lot, and used to have the British soldiers with the SE-80 rifles standing at the checkpoints.
Yeah, like that. I had family over there back in the sort of mid-90s, so I have been through.
Hugh, can I ask? Does the camera look better now? I've got a new camera, so
I just think you need. I just think if you get a bit more lighting behind it, people won't think you look like Andrew Tate. You know.
That's what I think.
Yeah. I need to get improved lighting.
Yeah,
however, there are some problems.
See
when you're speaking.
Yeah.
See, when you're speaking to me, it's glitching sometimes, but it's not actually you glitching, it's me. So when I listen to this in playback, I'm glitching. And so that's why I don't hear what you're saying sometimes.
So when you play it back, you don't hear the glitching. You don't hear the glitching on the. You don't hear the glitching on the playback. On the final.
No, you do. But it's not you, it's glitching. It's me, it's glitching.
Yeah.
But I hear it as you. When I'm talking to you, you're glitching. But when you go on playback, you don't hear you glitching. It's me.
Why not? You should get.
I hear him glitching, but I don't hear you glitching.
Right.
But I think that's just the delay.
Why not? You should get one of the Halo lights for podcasts, because I've actually got 3 of them out here, and it's the light it gives is natural light, and obviously. It just brightens it, or what you can do is you can do like a background change. You can, it can put like a background behind you. What's that?
Right, what's the comments? We've got comments in the comments section, and Gavron, you got to pay attention to that.
Okay, sorry about that. So we have Shooter just said, "Hey, can you post the link to get in?" Hey, I couldn't hear you. Oh, that was a guy for earlier.
Right.
Who phoned.
Right. Well, don't forget, people, in the future, you can always leave comments in the comments section, and we will get back to you quicker than we did there. The more comments, the better, because I want to actually get a live stream comment chat going on so people can discuss what we're discussing and leave our views. And again, anyone can come on. Anyone, if you click the link that is beside the video, or you call the number. You can get on and share your views. It's free.
Yeah, and, it's like if we get more people engaging, then obviously we can have better topics. We can have other people's views. Sometimes things may get a little bit heated because someone might have strong beliefs in one or the other. And I suppose that's what these podcasts are about, is just to get your views, the viewers' views on all these subjects that Vince covers. And it doesn't matter whether your views align with us or not. It's like it's still respected, and obviously we welcome everyone's views. It makes it interesting.
And don't forget to subscribe and follow. We're on Rumble, Twitter, X and YouTube. We're also, you can catch us on podcast on Apple, Spotify, Podbeam, so there's locations you can
you just want to listen to the audio while you're doing housework, I think you can put it on Spotify or whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, so thanks for coming on, Hugh, and thanks for staying with us and tuning in, people.
Oh, sorry. One thing before we go. Since you've been compared to Andrew Tate, let's just say that Gareth's Nate Diaz. Right, Nate Diaz.
I have no idea who that is. I hope that's
from UFC.
He's on the Joe Rogan show.
Oh,
yeah, UFC.
Right.
Fighter. He's a UFC.
I'm assuming that's our compliment.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll see you all later.
And who's Hugh? Who can Hugh be?
Who's the Donald?
Oh, don't say that.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
They want to get really hard from Ireland, Right. Have a nice one, guys. Enjoy the
Thank you.
Okay,
Until next time, right? Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night. Bye-bye.